Bonjour French 1. Today's video is all about asking about and telling about your family. It's going to give you several different questions that you might want to ask somebody about their own family or that they may ask about yours, as well as some responses to go with those questions. Now, I definitely tried to leave you some space because some of these questions and the answers are a little bit longer and more in-depth and require a lot of space to both write out how they are actually spelled, as well as remember now we're including how they're pronounced. But it is going to be kind of hard to fit these on the line, so I tried to leave them spaced out to try to help you out with making sure that you have enough room to fit these longer phrases, but just do your best. Also keep in mind that some of these answers can be answers for different questions, and you can mix and match the questions and the answers without much trouble to make sure that you are answering truthfully about how your family works. So let's go ahead and get started. Remember, of course, that I will pause after I pronounce these words to give you a chance to pronounce them yourself. We'll start off with if you are either looking at a picture or you're standing in a room with a bunch of family members. If somebody wants to know who somebody is, they're going to ask, who is that? Which in French is qui c'est ça? In order to answer that, there's a lot of different ways. If you want to say, well, here is this person, you use the word voici. If you want to say there is or there are these people, you say voilà. If you want to say this is, you say ça c'est. And if you want to say these are, then you say ça se sont. Please notice that all four of these phrases have a ... after them because you actually have to fill in who the person is. Whether you're giving their name or the relationship to you, there needs to be something after these phrases. They are only sentence starters, not complete sentences on their own. One other thing I wanted to note, and this is not on your paper, so I don't know if you want to add it somewhere in the margin somewhere, if you can find a place near the top. To show possession in the French language, instead of using apostrophe S's like we would in English, like to say, oh, well, that's Luke's cousin. And we use an apostrophe S to say that the cousin belongs to Luke, so to speak. In French, they don't use apostrophe S's. They use the word de. And they actually do it kind of backwards. So in order to say that it's Luke's cousin, they'll actually say it's the cousine de Luc, which translated word for word means the cousin of Luke. Same kind of thing here, Julie's brother. We got another example. Instead of saying Julie's brother or even Julie's frère and using an apostrophe S in the French language, they don't do that. They flip it around, and instead of saying Julie's brother, they'll say the brother of Julie, which requires the use of the word de. So le frère de Julie is how you would say Julie's brother. Literally, it translates word for word to the brother of Julie. Just giving you a heads up on that in case you see it, or if you wanted to start using that, apostrophe S is not existent in the French language. A few other questions about family include asking how many people are in your family. The way you do that in French is by saying, vous êtes combien dans ta famille? And if you want to answer by saying there's a certain number of us, I'm actually going to, for the purposes of this video, fill in the number 5 because I happen to have 5 people in my family. You would say nous sommes 5. Now again, I'm filling in the actual number 5 there, but you could fill in whatever number you would need to. Another question that you may need to ask is whether or not somebody has any brothers or sisters. You could break it down and just say, do you have brothers? Or you could say just, do you have sisters? This particular question asks about both, and it's pronounced, tu as des frères et des sœurs? Now, obviously, if you do have a brother or sister, your answer is not going to be what is on this page, but we'll get to what your answer could be on the next question here. But one possible answer is if you are an only child. Now, you'll notice there's actually 2 words here. If you are a boy who's an only child, you'll use this word fils. Remember, fils is the word for son. And then this right here is the word for daughter. It's if you're an only child who is a girl. So we're going to actually go through both. If you are an only child and you are a boy, you're going to say non, je suis fils unique. And if you are an only child and you are a girl, you're going to say non, je suis fille unique. Another question you could ask instead of just do you have brothers and sisters, if you want to get specific numbers, you could say how many brothers and sisters do you have? To do that, you'll need to throw in that question word for how many, which is the word combien. So if you want to ask how many brothers do you have, you would say tu as combien de frères? If you want to ask how many sisters do you have, you'd ask tu as combien de sœurs? And in order to answer, or if somebody asked you, do you have brothers and sisters from the last page, and you wanted to say, yes, I have this number of brothers and sisters, remember the way you say I have in French is j'ai. And then, of course, you'd have to fill in however many numbers of brothers you sisters you have. So for me personally, my sentence would say I have one brother, because that's my situation. And the way you would say that in French is j'ai un frère. If you do not have a brother or sister, you could obviously use that phrase for being an only child as well. But if you just want to actually say, I do not have a brother or sister, you would say for I don't have a brother, je n'ai pas de frère. And for I don't have a sister, je n'ai pas de sœur. Finally, sometimes these are considered to be members of the family in some of our families. I know there are in mine. You might want to ask somebody if they have a pet. The way you ask, do you have a pet, is tu as un animal domestique? And if you want to answer by saying that you have a certain pet, remember that phrase for I have is j'ai. My personal answer would be that I have one dog, so my answer would sound like j'ai un chien. But obviously you can change that up if you have a chat, if you have a cat, or anything like that. If you want to say that you don't have one of those pets, you can say, for example, I don't have a dog, je n'ai pas de chien. Or if you don't have a cat, you can say, je n'ai pas de chat.